The eclipse season is always a really challenging time. You know, for some people, they're filled with fire and inspiration, but for a lot of us who have these ongoing internal issues, things we haven't dealt with, this is the time during the eclipse season that they will come up. You can run, but you can't hide, because these moon phases will absolutely eclipse over you and pull out those shadows, the things that you've been buried deep inside, and they will come out to reveal whatever needs to be revealed that you maybe have not seen or have pushed deep inside or not being willing to see. And that is one of the major reasons why these eclipses happen as a cosmic happening. Now I'm just going to have a look on my computer here just to see that this is all working right now, so bear with me and I'll continue speaking, but please do feel free to pop a message if you can. Okay, so I'm just going to check on my laptop that this is all streaming fine. Okay, well, yeah, I think it is. Okay, all right, so hopefully too you'll be able to hear me. Does anyone have any hearing issues? Okay, all right, so I'll get on with it. Okay, so now what can I say? All right, firstly, it's been a really challenging time for lots of you, I know, and I'm right there with you as always. And the first eclipse, the solar eclipse on the 13th of July, that brought up, because it was in Cancer, it brought up a lot of issues to do with home and family, especially for a lot of people. So have a think about what has been brought up with you. So for example, if you're a parent with little kids, maybe you've gotten really irritated with your kids or you know, those of you with partners, maybe some things have come up there in your relationships. Hi Sue, nice to see you. Great, it's great to see that someone can you hear me? Can you just let me know that the volume's fine and everything's fine? That would be great, thank you. Yes, a lot of us, especially, so I'm a mum too, so my kids have been driving me absolutely nuts at times, you know, which is a common occurrence, but this is the time where it's all amped up, right? Amped up in your house. So that Cancer quality, especially if you're very empathic, if you are a highly sensitive person. Oh, thank you, Andrea, for letting me know about the volume. I appreciate it. Awesome. So if you're a highly sensitive, empathic person, if you're a nurturer type, if you have the number 6 in your numerology, as I do, or 33 as in the giver, the loving, nurturing, kind of generous kind of person, no matter what your numbers are, you could just be that kind of kind, generous person, which lots of you are who follow me on my page. So then issues to do with self-sacrifice or feeling like you give to others has possibly been amplified. Now, maybe not now, but if you have a look maybe a couple of weeks ago or in the last week or few weeks, or even month, what's been coming up for you in that regard. This can also be things such as boundaries, energetic boundaries, so people pushing your buttons. Oh, that's been huge. So the people that you know in your life that are close to you, or other people around you, or people you know less, such as work colleagues or clients or whatever, have your buttons been pushed? So first think of those who you love. You might have, I mean, often our soulmates are our biggest button pushers as well. So have a think of who has been pushing your buttons and what buttons have been pushed. And if you're a sensitive person, you're sure going to feel those buttons being pushed as well, if you're empathic especially too. Other than that, if it's somebody that's not as close to you, okay, so Sue's saying yes, the kids, yes, absolutely, I so relate to that, I know exactly what you mean. So if it's someone not so close to you, such as a customer, someone you work with, or a neighbor, or just someone you happen to have a chat with, whatever, who have been the energy vampires, the drainers of your life. So pay attention to that too. Have you felt more like you want to be at home, but at the same time the energy of your home has felt a bit combative, or you've been sort of irritated at home, like you can't find your grounding and your peace, or things are just a bit like that, like static? Okay. The gift of it all, so obviously all these things come up, right? Like these things come up, like being absolutely drained by other people or energy that's happening, being irritated and all these things. So why? The reason is, let's have a look at why. So we're starting right now to look at this Cancer energy, as I said, which is home and family. So why are these irritations happening? What are you to learn from this? So I'll give you an example. So my son, who's only 11 years old, he is very sensitive, quite intuitive, is very much an angel type, similar to me. And so when I've gotten irritated recently, he would say, he notices it straight away and he echoes it back to me. So if I go, rah, la, la, he'll do the same back to me, and he's my mirror. So I can see straight away, okay, obviously I'm not acting in the way I should be, or I've lost it or whatever, like quite literally, and he'll show it back to me very quickly as a mirror, and then I'll go, okay, I know. Now if I'm really irritated, I'm just going to keep on being irritated and being annoyed and all of that, but if I step back and I take a breath, then I can go, okay, there's the learning lesson right there. My sensitive angel type sun is showing me, and I'm going to now drop into the love energy and just fall into it. And because there's a lot of this sort of staticky energy everywhere, which makes you feel like you're fighting, like you are under pressure, like you are overreactive. Reactive is a really good word. There's been a lot of reactive type behavior. Some people manifest it outwardsly, and other people, you're holding it all within you, and you feel like you are this big well of horrible feelings of deep irritation and anger and angst and irritability, and it's all firing up inside you. So yep, Sue's saying yes, so I understand, you relate completely. And when this happens, it's like you're a volcano that's either almost going to erupt at any second. You're on the brink, on the brink, on the brink, on the brink. And Andre's saying, Jesus, feels like a personal reading. Yeah, I have to laugh because I know exactly what you mean. So obviously we're giving personal and collective messages here. So it's, you're either this volcano on the brink, or you are constantly flowing out your lava and spewing out your gunk, right? Or you're around other people who are doing that, okay? And so Sue's saying that her problem is she doesn't hold it in. So see, you can have a problem of holding it in, and you can have the problem of not holding it in. So is it a problem, or is it just a temporary solution? Are you reacting by you're so irritated that you just can't help but exploding? Or is it just about time that this is built up over days, weeks, months, or even years or lifetimes that you're spilling over? And then when you look at the internal side of things, if you're holding it in, then is that necessarily healthy? Have you learnt to do that over time because your only way of dealing with things is to bottle it up because you couldn't express it? You weren't free or felt safe to express yourself. So that also depends, that issue of safety I'm feeling quite strongly. So who around you or what makes you feel unsafe? And sometimes it's obvious and we know it, and other times you might have to dig deep on a subconscious level to really discover why you might feel unsafe in some way. And a lot of us feel this kind of rising tension on the earth where we don't feel safe. We're always on the brink, like what's about to happen? Something's about to happen. And I know this feeling really well because, you know, when I made my July video about the energies of July, thank you for the little floating heart, I love those, then I was saying, for example, I'm feeling this impending feeling of events coming up, that terror or shooting type events, and I was feeling it building up even just so I know yesterday I discovered on the news the Toronto shooting, and there's not much information out there about it at the moment, but I literally felt that day before and that morning, and I even checked the news, oh, I feel something's going to happen, it's about to happen. And that's just an example. And then, you see it, it's happened. Okay, I still feel there's some unresolved issues around that. And it's just one example. There's so many things, such as there are a lot of events and things going on behind the scenes that we do not hear about. And then there's things that we do hear about. So trust in your feelings. It's like you have your own barometer and you feel this pressure, it's like a pressure cooker. So you'll have your own feelings of what makes you turn into a pressure cooker. So the oppression that you feel, feeling frustrated about the world in general at large, or about your life, about work, money, relationships, family, household, whatever. Everyone's got their own versions, and there's things that come up at times. These are all the things that sort of start to erupt within us, and they can build up. So you're like a pressure cooker. And so have a think about what those things are for you and what's come up recently, because I feel that the stress levels have increased. So it's a combination of your own personal issues and world energy. And when I talk about world energy, we're not just talking about the positive cosmic energies and the cycles of life that are happening, but I'm also talking about there's also what I would call the energy of the hidden hand. So the more negative forces or people at play in the world who are causing destruction, fear, chaos, and negative events to happen, that's all happening at the same time. And so you as a sensitive person will be feeling this, and you're feeling, it's like a trembling, it's like sensing an earthquake before it happens, such as animals do before we even are aware of it. You can feel those grumblings happen. Okay, now those grumblings happening that are invisible, but you feel it, it's palpable as an energetically aware person, or just as a sensitive person. Even if you're feeling like you don't understand much about energy or spirituality, you might find that you just have become fragile because of life and your own experiences and your relationships and things happening. And when you're feeling fragile, you're on the brink, and also there's cracks, and then you feel, even if you don't realize it, all this outside energy and things happening. So for example, if we use the metaphor of the grumbling earth, because these dark forces are doing these things, and it manifests in your own life through your own relationships and situations. So you're sort of projecting that energy outwards to your family or your friends or people around you, or it's just happening to you yourself. Other people are acting as a mirror. We're all mirroring each other. So perhaps you're a kind of person who doesn't like to take things out on people, or sometimes you do, you can't help it. You might be a generally nice person, but you're feeling other people erupt. So so Sue's just written, is the energy going to change soon? I know, isn't that the $1 million question always? Yes, but give it time. It's going to go on, I feel, yes, still for a few weeks, but there will be a shift. And when you feel the shift, you will feel it and you'll know exactly. And I'm getting the image right now of curtains opening. So we've got the curtains draped over us, over our eyes, over our life. And so when the energy shift happens, it will literally feel like the curtains have been drawn open. And so when you feel that, you'll just know instantly. You might even wake up one morning and just feel like it's a bright, new, sunny day. So that's often how these things happen. Some people it's sudden and others gradual, okay? But you must look at what's being brought up to the surface. So let's see. Okay, so I've talked about eclipses as bringing up deep-rooted issues that could be from recent times or even from a really long time ago, things that are still unprocessed and that need to heal. And so not only that, there's a lot more things that happen with eclipses. So and particularly with this one, I feel there's been a lot of issues with people with bringing up to the surface things I mentioned before about boundaries. So things that show you that your boundaries are weak, or that you let people walk over you, or that you're not feeling respected or valued. So for example, if you feel like, for example, let's say you do some kind of alternative work or healing, or you have an idea for a spiritual business, for example, but you're not feeling that those around you are seeing or appreciating what you do, or perhaps you finding resistance, or like you can't get the time in that you need to create what you want to create, or there's these blocks. So it's things like that that are popping up, things to do with people's life purpose, life mission, feeling trapped. There's a lot of people feeling between the throat and the chest, feeling anxiety, feeling fears, feeling like they're really suffering in silence, or they're feeling irritated that they can't get ahead or do what they want to do, or that they have these moments of reflection and insight and inspiration, but then they get thwarted and bombed by other energy or blocks, or just things you have to do, and then that forms resentments and so on. Now I did talk about button pushing with people. What I feel is interesting is that the solar eclipse on the 13th is now, we have this couple of weeks in between. So we're there right now. We're in a couple of days, depending on where you are, but on the 27th, so today's the 24th, so in a few days in Australia, it will be the next eclipse, which is the lunar eclipse, and that one's in Aquarius. So what I'm feeling from that is Aquarius is very much about expressing your truth, being the person that you truly are. And you might have noticed that you've had some issues with, perhaps you feel that other people around you are not seeing you for who you are, or you're frustrated that, for example, in a friendship, they seem preoccupied with other things and they're not noticing you or really tuning in on a deeper level, or irritations are occurring, or you're just sort of feeling lost in it all. You might have had issues expressing yourself, a fear of coming out, a fear of being your true self, a fear of speaking, communicating, revealing who you truly are, because it's a very vulnerable thing to do so, and because there's so many horrible people out there, it's true. Also, this brought up, I did mention in the July video about things like social media and trolls and all of that, and then that I went through that. So, even though I'm making these videos and giving the advice and so on, I can fall under the traps of what I might be trying to warn about, or guide people about. So that happened to me. I'm just going to read a message. Andre said, you should be on Instagram. Oh yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, I am on Instagram. I found that I found it harder to sort of get my ropes around Instagram, but I definitely was going to give that a try, so thanks for reminding me. I'll do that at some point. I think it's just getting comfortable with the Facebook technology first, but I will do that. Okay, so I was speaking about Aquarius, to the influence of that. So we've got, let's have a look. I wrote a note. It's also about your imagination and creativity birthing. So I feel that it's like, I really want to give birth to all these creative ideas and dreams and spend time on this and the other thing, and I haven't been able to. So when that happens, you're feeling frustrated, like you're going to burst. And so what I feel is that the eclipse illuminates a pathway. So it illuminates a pathway, but as it does, all the grit comes up, okay? So all that darkness comes up and rises. And so, and how do you deal with that? You can either react or you can resist even. Some people resist, and the more they resist, the more energy will show itself of that nature. So hi Frida and hi Jenny, thank you for popping a little symbol there. So that's something to be aware of too. Or you could approach it in the way of, okay, this is difficult, but I'm going to really make an effort to do the best I can and just, you know, breathe, go out for walks. I might get irritated, fine, but let it go as much as I can and try to learn from this. So the best way to get through these periods is to be really grounded. I really can't say that enough, because I've learned that when you ground yourself, you're anchoring yourself down, because especially us spiritual types, we're very much can be up here in the higher chakras, and you know, we're so aware and illuminated by all this energy, and our sensitive our antennas are all alert and active, and we can be under great stress, and even our nervous system can get really like all our wires go haywire. So it's important in that case, just like, I mean, I don't know much about electricity, but I'd imagine there's something to do with, you don't want the circuits to blow. You need that grounding thing, whatever that is, if someone knows about electricity. Okay, so Jenny wrote, well, so glad I tuned in. This is great, and hello, and welcome. Okay. So if that makes sense, I'm going to go back to what I said. So an illuminated pathway is given, okay, but then the shadows creep up. So that's how it kind of feels. So we don't want to get caught too much in the shadows, but at the same time we don't want to run away from them. So if you imagine these are the shadows, we have to look at them, and then once we've looked at them, I'm like, oh, okay, that's why that's come up. So for example, that person really made me feel irritated because I felt like they didn't respect my time and energy, and they were just trying to abuse that for their own self service. Then I'm going to be, okay, boom. So from now on, I'm not going to let that get to me. If I let that get to me, so if this person really starts to drain me because they're a bit of an energy vampire, and they're just taking, for example, and they don't see outside of themselves. I mean, that's definitely one of my frustrations, is being around people who don't see outside of themselves. So in their own little worlds. I know what it's like to be in my own world, but at the same time, I'm very much out for the people. So these people who are very self-serving and just everything's about them, and when you talk to them, all the conversations about them. So if you really think about it, there are going to be several people in your life that are like this, and you come across these people. So what I've had to learn is, okay, I have to step up my boundaries and be more assertive and be like, no, I'm not going to let that in. If you let in that energy, and of course I'm just using that as an example, we'll all have our own examples, then I'm going to get infiltrated. And then if you imagine, like in a horror movie, that negative dark energy starts to just integrate with your own, and then you're going to become bombed. So Lindsay wrote, it's definitely a challenging energy time to try and balance all the stuff that has been coming up and going on. Yes, absolutely. Balancing is the key. And she wrote, thanks for explaining it all so well. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's a combination of, you know, old researched information, but mostly also intuition coming in. So, and just being open to whatever messages come through for whoever's watching, what you need to know, to make sense of it all. Because, you know, when we're bogged down, we're like this, we're like, ugh, it's like this. And it's hard to hear and see. Just like when in the world of mediumship, so for example, if someone has lost a loved one in spirit, and if you're grieving, and you have this cloud of grief over you, it's going to form a wall where you're not going to hear messages coming in, or perhaps you have a loved one trying to come through and say, hey, I'm here, I'm okay, but you're not going to hear it because you've got this big dome of darkness around you, which is understandable because of all the grief. So it's the same with in a period like this, where you just, if you have this wall around you, which you might have either built up yourself or just being inevitable because of all the energy and everything happening, then you're not going to hear or feel like you can not only receive messages and guidance yourself and be open to signs and synchronicities and feel that light coming in, because they're showing me an image of light coming through the cracks. Then yeah, I've forgotten what the flow of what I was trying to say was, but yeah, so this light coming in with the cracks. So if you're like this, you're also going to close yourself down to that light coming in, because the eclipse, as much as it's about the shadows and being eclipsed, it's also, the moon does represent illumination and brightness too, and it's to remind you of your own brightness, how you can be more illuminated. But in order to do so, you must face that darkness, and that's just how it is, which is really interesting. But the more that you realize that, the easier it will be for you to get a grip of things and to work it out, release and move on, which is really important. So think about what challenges have come up for you. Think about what people have come up for you. Sometimes with energy, it's not always what's the energy. It might be who's the energy as well, or a combination. Combinations are the worst. But yeah, you know, and you often find in this period, it is a combination of things. So I think at this point, I'm going to mention too about Mercury retrograde. So Mercury retrograde is happening tomorrow for a few weeks. So with all of these cycles, so we had the solar eclipse on the 13th, you're going to feel the build-up of it beforehand, maybe for weeks beforehand, and then you also feel a couple of weeks before Mercury retrograde that build up. So I know that so many of you are going to go, oh my god, it's happened to me too, but it's the computers going haywire, the trying to get something done and there's a glitch, computer breaking down, or having to myself and even a client I spoke to recently mentioned you know how Microsoft Office is changing and you now have to pay for it and stuff. Well, you're trying to do a Word document and all these messages come up and you can't use the Word documents properly, and just all that sort of thing. Miscommunications with people. So maybe it might be that you're talking with someone face to face, but it can also be people that you communicate with over social media or through email or telephone. You might find that there's some annoying things you've had to deal with on the telephone, or messages with people and just misunderstandings and issues coming up. Those things like what you call like a silent war or that kind of thing. So pay attention to those too. So just know that this is all this energy. So I talked before about these eruptions. It's also Mercury retrograde. So Jenny writes, my husband's health is too much of a challenge suddenly. What can I expect? Do you feel anything intuitively? What is the first name of your, I'm not sure that I will, but just pop the first name of your husband if that's okay, just for energy reasons. So what I will say about that generally is a lot of people have suffered health issues. So I know for me, I get migraines anyway, but mine all flared up pretty bad in recent times. Sore bones, all that kind of thing. So people will experience things like headaches, cold, flu, sore throat, and all sorts of random things. So his name is Guy. Okay. Guy. I just feel that it will take some time, this health challenge that he's under, and I feel that it's getting to him. Is he a bit depressed? I feel he's it's building up, and it's either starting to or just really been getting to him, and has had a hard time with it, but also with you or other people around him. So that's what I would say with that. And just to send you lots of angels and Archangel Raphael to be by your side and to help with those issues and in your household, anything coming up in your household. Okay, now, all right, so what else do I want to say? Okay, so we have Mercury retrograde in the middle of, okay, so Jenny wrote the Cancer scan tomorrow, okay. So I just wish you all the best with that. I'll be sending you lots of angels. I'm sorry that you're going through this. And just, yeah, to prepare for what's ahead the best you can. So is there a chance he'll be going to hospital or getting some kind of hospital treatment? So I just feel hospital come up. Okay. All right. So thank you, Archangel Raphael, angels, for being with Jenny and her family, her husband Guy and all the family, and helping in whatever way that you can. Okay. And also I feel that your sensitivities will be coming up with that as well. Thanks for everyone to giving supportive messages for Jenny. Okay. So the health issues, obviously cancer is a really big one to face. So some people are undergoing really difficult illnesses or situations, or even mentally, and while other people are going through smaller things, and sometimes the smaller things feel inflamed, they feel enlarged, they feel completely inflated. And it's like in this energy recently, things have felt like they've gone out of whack and been blown even out of proportion. And that is just like a balloon that's about to pop, okay, and burst. So we have to remember that with every challenge, there's also an opportunity, and often that challenges are a blessing in disguise. And so I feel that bursting through all of this, there is opportunity. And there is light streaming through, as I said, through the cracks in that pathway that's illuminated. Kimberly wrote, is this a good time for good things? Yes, absolutely. We don't have to all like suffer here in absolute misery. And Madalena has written about her anxiety. And I just want to say hi to you, and I recall some of our previous discussions. So sending you lots of angels. So yes, anxiety is huge. That feeling of like you're going to have a panic attack, anxieties, irrational fears. I know for myself a lot of stress, like I haven't been able to control stress. Stress huge for even things that otherwise someone might think is a small thing, or that feeling. But it's also because we're energetically sensitive. And Madalena has written, like I said on your post the other day, it's an explosion from the inside out. Yeah, absolutely. So I know exactly what you mean, and that's similar to what I was saying before about that volcanic eruption type feeling. You do feel like you're just going to burst at any second, but it's like that balloon that when it bursts, then you can finally let it go free. And we are like, okay, which reminds me, what I'm getting now is a message about how we feel trapped and how we don't feel free. So because of the hidden hand, and I mean, guys, let me know that you understand what I mean when I talk about, I'm going to be talking about this more and more, but the hidden hand as in the dark forces, or people who are behind the scenes enacting terror and things like that. And a lot of them are in positions of high power. So this energy that is around us that we cannot deny, because more and more of us are waking up. We're realizing that it's not just a spiritual awakening, it's a political awakening, it's a global awakening of global socio-economic political issues. And with that comes up a whole lot of other things. So this would explain why our life these days, we should be, I mean, I think you'll relate to feeling like we should be happy, we should be, we should be in our element and happy. We finally, those of us with family and kids, finally life is sort of, or, you might have a wonderful job, but in reality, most people are not happy. We feel an oppression, even if we can't put our finger on it, because we're stuck in a system. We're stuck in an absolute system where we are literally slaves to the system. And it really is true. It is almost like a prison planet in a way. And, we're not free. So we're yearning to be free. So at the moment, it's like we want to break free. Okay. So Asok has written, I lost my wife last January. I'm so sorry. That really is awful to go through. I am communicating with her since then. That's beautiful. She said we can meet again in the next birth. Oh, that is just gorgeous. I'm filled with energy just reading that. So hopefully you can feel that right now. I'm absolutely getting the intuitive validation that absolutely that is happening, and that yes, and that she will be there waiting for you when you cross over, when it's your time. As my wife, is it true, or am I talking to myself? Well, I think I just validated it for you. Yes, I feel that that is absolutely 100% true. And if anyone else has feelings about that too, as I read that, then please let Asok know. So lots of love to you during this time. And just, yeah, the angels are with you. So keep that faith and that knowing within you, these shadows might have cast a doubt. So for anybody that can relate to feeling doubtful or like you are not being heard or seen, know that it's just the shadows, and that once that break frees, the light will come through again, like the light coming through the cracks. It's just, you have a beautiful relationship with your wife there, so that is eternal, and that flame will forever be. Okay. So think about with this eclipse season, and of course the Mercury retrograde sort of sandwiched in between, think about it as, what is this message for you personally? What do you have to learn from this? What have you got to realize and release? Okay. And so, you know, the eclipse is very much known as the wild card of astrology, and it really has felt, so if you really think back in the last few weeks, it's like someone just threw you the wild card and just like, here you go. This will completely like put everything all over the place for you, and you're going to be like, what the? Okay, it definitely is a WTF time. So now I can't see all that message. Somebody wrote something, is this particular energy in eclipse going to force some change in these areas of human suffering? Let me just press see more button. Suffering. Oh, I lost the message. Sorry, because someone, can I scroll? Oh, I can scroll up. Great. Okay. Change and being stuck in the system. Yes, so that's huge. So okay, so what I've been feeling, so in advance of this year, I felt that this year is a huge year for awakening, and I definitely have been feeling and seeing that more and more and more. It's not just the spiritual awakening. A lot of us have been focused very much on our own spiritual awakening and evolution, and learning all this spiritual stuff, and being so thirsty for all this knowledge. And yes, that's provided an intuitive groundwork, and it's where our soul has been calling us. Right now the earth is trembling, and so many more people, other people, or these same people, are waking up in a new way, in a different way. There's a lot of people, there's some people who have both the spiritual awakening and the awakening about the hidden hand and just the you know, obnoxious things going on earth. And there's some that just one or the other. There's some who are very spiritually sort of into all that, but they don't care to know about that, or they might know about it but don't want to go there. And I understand. So there's been times where too, I decide, okay, I don't want to turn on the news and get into all that stuff. But what I found is that I'm more and more interested in recent times in learning information about what is going on, to understand it more fully, to then understand the energy. And because I don't want to be living in a lie, okay, we can put up this false sense of the world. Oh, it's all this pretty little place, and I'm just going to ignore all that other stuff. But no, I cannot ignore the fact that there are people, you know, all okay. So I'm going to talk about this at another time, but let's just say it this way. There are people in power who are, you know, creating terror events. They are into the occult in a negative way. They are bombing us with all these horrible frequencies. They are deliberately messing with us. There's mind control. It's through entertainment, it's through the media, it's through pharmaceuticals, for our foods, just all these different areas. And yes, more and more and more, yes, I believe this is true. And know it to be true. So there is a great deal of human suffering, and then you get to the children and the abuse, the horrible, horrible reality of child sacrifice and global pedophilia. That is something I care really deeply about. And it is something truly happening on this earth. The trafficking, there's so many issues and things. So for all of us, we are to awaken in our own way. And if we find out information like this, just go with what you're drawn to, and you're drawn to a reason. Sometimes we have to be brave and actually go, okay, I'm going to look at that information, even if it's a bit scary. And the more you do, the more you can, and just follow those paths. Just be aware you don't go so deep into it that you sort of lose yourself in it so much that you're not present in your own life. So do try to find a balance. But I'm not going to ignore that there's atrocities on earth, and I'm not going to ignore all the negative stuff. because as a sensitive person, I'm not just feeling my own stuff and people around me, and then the earth, I'm just feeling it all, and I'd like to know about it. So I want to know where this energy is coming from, and know how to barricade myself from it. So yes, I do feel that more and more people are waking up to the political chaos and things going on, and that feeling that something's not right, that Earth's not like what it was meant to be, and that, you know, I really had an intuition recently that when people say, why did God create Earth like this? Why did God create people like this? Is it God that created the terror and atrocities, or is it the narcissistic, like psychopaths, the people living and breeding dark energy? So if you think about that, then you'll begin to understand the world a bit more. But those of us who see the light, sense the light, who feel a soul calling, who care about people in the world, who, you know, and we undergo so much suffering. And sometimes you think, why are we suffering so much? When, you know, we should be thinking our life is fine compared to previous times in history. We're not, most of us are not personally in a country where there's war happening right there. We're not in poverty to the degree, you know, where it's severe. So why are we so depressed and stressed? Because of all that energy, that's why. Okay, so let me read the other messages. So Jamie writes, these past 2 days I've been feeling so much more anxiety. Yeah, absolutely. And just know that it's not just you. Many of us are feeling this too. And just tense, dense energy within myself. Yes, and around people, absolutely. I don't feel like my normal, free-spirited self. And I feel sadness in that, because I understand this completely, because I've gone through so many periods, and recently too, where I feel like I can't be my true self around certain people, but my true self feels the most free and real and soul connected. But not everybody can get to that soul level, or they deny it, or it's too much of a mirror for them. And so too many people are going through their emotions and in their own worlds, that they can't see you, they can't hear you, they don't feel you in the way that you might feel them. So for us types that go through that, you have to retreat, and that can be a lonely place, but it's for your own self-preservation until you build up your inner strength again, and out you go again, and you just keep going and going and going, and you keep those lights flickering. The angels are literally showing me now like little lights. So it's like a pathway of lights. So keep your light glowing and just do the best that you can do. You got to work on yourself first before you can help others. Sue's saying about constantly getting 111 and 1111 on the clock every day, every single day. Yeah, I so know that one more than ever before. And 444. What do the 11s mean? Okay, so I've got my article on 1111 and about number patterns too. So when I finish this video, I'll post the links below so that you can all look at that if you want to. Okay, so what I'm getting now is 11 is about the doorways of illumination. So remember that I said that, well, the angels have told me about the eclipses as providing an illuminated path. And so if you imagine there's this illuminated path, and then there's the 2 doorways to walk through, the 11, 1, 1, and it's like a threshold. So the 11 is like a gateway, a threshold for you to walk through. Because the 11 gateway has so much light, if you think of it as this beautiful, blinding, bright light, these 2 poles of bright light, it's like, the light's so bright, it's going to almost burn me. If you are carrying some darker aspects, some shadows, just difficult things you're going through, even as a nice person, negative energy, you're going to get that static, that until you realize and release, and then you're able to walk through, and that's when that shift happens. So for those of you asking about when's the change happening, the positive shift, you've got to walk through that gateway first. 1111 is like an illumination from the divine, reminding you who you really are and your soul essence. and saying, we're here, there's signposts along the way showing you that you are on the right track, and that yes, Spirit is here, we hear you, we see you, we're doing our bit to show you and give you signposts so that you don't feel so alone and isolated in the world. And it's to remind you of your life purpose, and many more things. So have a look at the article about that. But yes, it totally matches the current energy, because it is all about illumination, and illumination also includes truths being revealed. So this might be your own personal truths, those around you, coming out as your true self. So for some people that might be just to reveal a bit more of who you are. Some people it might be, you know, come out of your spiritual closet. Some of you it might be a political thing. Some of you might be a sexuality thing. Whatever it is, but it's about being you and being true and revealing that to the world, which has been hard to do when you're around difficult situations and people. But it's about breaking free. So you're going to be given the chance to break free once you work through all the stuff. Okay. All right. So Madalena writes, I find it scary, too many spirits with too many messages, and so many too scared to cross over. Well, great. So that shows me that you are able to see, sense spirits and do the spiritual work, which is wonderful. But just be aware that you're not carrying that as a burden on you, or feeling like that's a job you have to do and that weighs you down. And also you need to switch on your light and be more protected, so that you are not interrupted, your energy field is not so interrupted, that you give your guidelines of when you want to do that work. Okay, so you need to set up your boundaries with not only other people but spirit, so that when you once you've worked on yourself and you feel more empowered and spiritually alive, then you can do that work in an empowered way, and you can cross over many more spirits in that time. Something I definitely have a strong interest in is crossing spirits over, which I do too, and just be aware that it's about you, and not let them sort of bother you so much to the point that it is becoming a bother. So that's, like I said, boundaries and protection. Okay, and then you can do your work in a much higher way as well, working with spirit, working with Archangel Michael, Jesus Christ I recommend, and the angels. But you probably already have your own techniques, so you're well on your own way. Okay, so what else? I'm just going to look through if there's any other messages to read out there. So Jamie writes, yes, thank you so much. Oh my God, I need to retreat, that is for sure. And it's funny, when I read, oh my God, it's like, you know, the internet is full of, I know exactly what you mean, but the internet is full of these like, oh my God, and WTF, and all of this heightened hype language, because people are going through the motions and emotions. So they're hyperactive and hyper reactive. And Madalena says, I need to work on boundaries. Yes, absolutely, 110%. I understand, you know, I know from my interactions with you, so you know what I mean, that where this boundaries stem from. So you know what I mean, just looking at you right now. So each to their own, but I'm talking to Madalena right now, but for each person, you know where your boundaries have, lack of boundaries have stemmed from, and why you need to put up your boundaries. So I'm just going to ask that Archangel Michael, Jesus Christ, and the angels come in, and Mother Mary, and help everybody who is here right now and also watching this video later. Help us find our inner strength and our boundaries. Help us understand why we need boundaries and in what situation, and help us learn that lesson quickly and most effectively that we can. Help us to set boundaries both spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Amen. Okay, so picturing yourself now with a boundary around you, not letting anyone cross it. People like Madalena, they need a really big, thick wall. Okay, especially empaths, which I feel you are, and others around here too. You need a thick wall of boundary. Okay. All right. So what else do I want to mention? So the eclipses, as you will have experienced, are literally one of the most intense, powerful transits of the, that you'll go through in the whole year. We went through it in February, so I want to say that if you can remember that far back, or if you happen to be a journaler or have written some notes, have a look at what was coming up for you then, because it's rising up to the surface again now to be finally resolved. You really want to resolve it and release it. So on the 27th, when we have the lunar eclipse in Aquarius, you want to then release it, okay? I mean, you can do this at any time. I really don't believe there's a formula and a magic spell or anything like that. Just do what feels right to you when you can. So often on the moon period, I get really tired and knocked out, and I just literally can't be bothered doing that kind of thing, and I just want to crash to sleep. So when that happens, when I'm ready the next morning or whatever, I then do it. Like, you don't need to freak out that it has to be a certain way or at a certain time. I really like to show people that spirituality really is a natural thing, and to trust your own intuition and do whatever feels right for you. And that it really can be really simple and straightforward. But have a look at what's been coming up for you and what you need to let go and release of, and make a resolve for yourself for your own healing and growth, and for those people around you, such as your family. Okay, so because it's a powerful energy, everything is amplified, electric, everything is like static, it's dramatic, it's got twists and turns, and so it can feel like this roller coaster, but a really bad one. Like, it reminds me of on our last holiday. I hadn't been on a roller coaster for ages, and it was just one of those like really bad carnival ones, temporary roller coaster, and it was so jerky, and I literally was screaming, and I had a heart attack on this thing. And my poor daughter, I was sitting, she was also like in shock the whole time. And I came out of it like with a jolt, and all of a sudden it stopped. That's what the eclipse is like, okay? After it happens, you can take a breather and relax and just be like, feel so relieved. So I feel that you're just wanting that relief, and it is coming, okay? So Madalena wrote, I have a tree in the park that I am urged to go hug. A hug from a tree is the best hug. Oh, it's so true. It's so true. I remember when I used to walk my kids to school in the early days, and there was this one tree, and it was this beautiful smooth tree, and I really felt its energy just walking up to it, and I would always want to go and touch it and hug it, but there was all these school mums and kids around, so it was a bit embarrassing. But one day I thought, why is that? Why do we have to be embarrassed because we're hugging a tree, right? But it is like that. So one day I thought, oh, F it, I'm just going to hug this tree because I'm feeling it so much. And so I did that, and then as I did, this woman I always walked past me. She looked at me like, what's she doing? But anyway, so what I do sometimes, I just put my hand on it, or I just rest there, and you will literally feel the energy of the tree, and it's like it absorbs everything from you. It's great for empaths. And it just, at the same time, it gives you, it nurtures you with this beautiful earth tree energy. And it's funny that you said trees too. Something I've learned as a lesson recently, or that was given by Spirit. A tree really is a symbol of us. And if you are to think of that, when you're really sad and depressed, you're like a willow tree, and all the branches are stooped like that. When you're strong and empowered, you're like a big, strong oak. So there's all sorts of different trees. When you're weak and feeble, you're like, it's like autumn, and all your leaves are falling off, and you have thin twigs and branches, and so on. So think of yourself as a tree, build up your strength. And trees are also a symbol of grounding, okay? So when we feel grounded, we're more centered, balanced, and we have our feeting on the ground, quite literally. It's a foundation from which to be clear, protected, and when there's so much going on energetically, and we're so much up here, us spiritual ones, it's so important to have the grounding of the tree. So if you think of the base of the tree as so grounding and nurturing, and you're branching out, you want to break free, your branches are out, and all your leaves are flourishing, and the light's coming in, and it's living, feeding off the light, but you also give to others, and you give to earth. So that's the message of the tree. I once did a channeling of a tree, so I'll share that when I have some time too. So Jamie writes, thank you for giving all this great advice. Very much appreciated. Thank you. You're a sweet, wise soul. Thank you. Appreciate it. And I appreciate your appreciation. That's really heartfelt. Okay. All right. So, okay. So what else do I want to say? So the other thing that eclipses do is they bring, there's this great acceleration. So it's like things are just speeding up, and it's almost like sometimes you feel like it's out of control. It's like you accidentally put your foot on the accelerator, but there's no sense of what's happening because it's all a blur around you. So that is because of the high energy coming in. Because also we're in this period of great awakening, these great shifts, and so energy is just streaming in these waves and shifts, and this is the period of a great shift right now, and it always feels intense, and it's like bumpy, and it's like waves and like a roller coaster, and then you break free and the light comes in and you expand and you have your shift. When the shift happens, you notice it. Oh, I love when the shift happens. It's awesome. And sometimes it feels like it happens a bit less than all the bad stuff, right? But we'll get there one step at a time. So with that, there's fated events and things are happening for a reason, which reminds me, so as I was preparing for a session with a client this morning, a message came through because when I'm preparing, I often get messages and I have to write them down. And it's just really quite simple but profound, and I'll read it out to you. And I felt that it would relate for today, okay? Or for this period right now. And all it is if you say to yourself, I am right where I need to be. So right now, I am right where I need to be. And if you feel the realness of this, the simple profoundness of it, you'll feel that you were holding on to fear. You were holding on, you were scared, and even if you don't understand why, but know that it's safe and that you're right where you need to be. Breathing in, the divine, and breathing out stress, and just know that everything's fine and you're exactly where you need to be, even if life is showing you otherwise. So that can be hard, but you're exactly where you need to be. So yes, the positive signs are that positivity can include opportunities coming through, breakthroughs. Be ready for divine downloads of information and insight and awareness and inspiration and intuition heightening and all those things. That is all accelerated by the accelerated energies as well. Okay, so and you know that things are being exposed. So on a personal level, it's all going to be exposed. They're going to come to the surface. It's like trying to squash all these things in a cupboard and slam the door shut. I've got a cupboard like that in my kitchen. It's a Tupperware cupboard, and it drives me nuts. And anyway, after a while, when it gets a bit all over the place, you open it out, it's like everything falls out. It's just like, So that's what it's like with the eclipse. It's all going to spill out if you don't deal with it yourself, okay? So time to open up those cupboards, quite literally, but also emotionally, mentally, and open up your curtains and let that light in, and let whatever needs to be revealed reveal itself. For truth is illuminated and revealed, and that includes on a higher, on a global scale. This is where all that stuff, coming out there, information coming out about certain people and groups and negative things and whatever. It's the news, things coming out on the news. So and it's not to be ignored or denied. It's for us to go up a notch on our evolution. Okay, so truth exposure. So that truth exposure also, apart from on a personal level and on the global level, it can also be seeing a person's true colors. So it could be someone close to you or someone that you know or a friend or whatever, and their true colors reveal themselves. They show themselves for who they really are, what their real motivation is. That's a powerful time for that. So do watch out for that. Watch out for insight and higher perspectives and intuition on things. Hi Stan, nice to meet you. Okay, and major life transformations are happening. So we're just on the eve, on the brink of this change. So even though it's a chaotic period, even though it feels like this energy is going on for some time, even though it's a massive purging process, know that it's all for good in the end. So it's just like literally they're showing me, what's a nice way to say the purge? So you know the physical purge. So when you're sick and you physically purge, you know, like as much as it's horrible, how much better and lighter you feel afterwards and relieved. So think of it that way too. Sorry for the metaphor, but that's what they gave me. Jamie said, that is too funny you say open cupboards. I am moving this Wednesday and I've been clearing and packing. Perfect too, because the angels made me feel like it was not just a metaphor, but quite physical. So, and I would really recommend, so it's all of the above, but I'd really recommend too that if for all of you, if you do some clearing and cleaning, it really helps. I can't say that enough. Sometimes, so when I'm preparing for a session, I don't feel good if there's any dust or anything around, and I'm not OCD, but I feel so great and so much better when I've wiped everything clean and I've sort of arranged everything. So have a little rearrange of your furniture and things like that, and fluff things up and clear things out and get rid of junk, and that will make you feel better too. Okay. So, all right, so anything else? So, yes, so we talked about feeling frustrated, feeling antsy. Antsy is a good word. It's like you got ants in your pants, but it's like you're irritated, you're agitated. And so what they're showing me is like there's a liquid, I don't know if it's a laundry thing or a chemical thing, but you know, sometimes when you put one type of liquid that agitates the other liquid, that's what I feel, that there's this agitation, but then when you shake it and when you put in the good clearing liquid, it clears it all out and it smooths it all out. So that's what it's like as well. So that would represent the higher cleansing, clearing, purging energies. Okay, so how can you get through this in more positive, helpful ways? I've already mentioned quite a few, like the grounding and the I don't remember what else I said, but hopefully you will. Clearing out rubbish and all that sort of thing. Also, not taking things personally, that can be hard because we can feel under attack. Put your hand up if you felt like you were under attack in some way. And just wait, ride out the storm, don't push against it. So sometimes it's wiser not to get in a row, for example, with your partner if it's unnecessary and about stupid little things. Just let it go and whatever, walk out, take a walk the dog, whatever, and just spend time reflecting. Journaling can be helpful, even just writing down random things that, you know, come to you. I find that sometimes things come to me at odd moments, but if I can grab a piece of paper and just blurt out whatever it is, it's really helpful, and you can read it later and gain further insight. Oh, one thing that they're showing me now is dreams. Dreams have been so put your hand up if you have been having a lot of dreams. Very vivid, very busy dreams. You might have even woken up exhausted and under a sweat. Okay, I see a hand up there. Just so many dreams because you're processing so much and because the energy is so strong and so high. So it's opening your intuition, and your subconscious mind is working overtime because I feel, so what they're saying is we're being so bombarded in the society by technology, signs, music, noise, frequencies, microwave energy, just all this stuff, too much, right? We're bombarded, emails, phones, buzzing, beeps, alarms. It's just, we're overstimulated, and it's just this big static bombardment of frequencies. So this can create great stress, and then so during this time it's all amplified, and we're bombed with symbols, images, signs everywhere, advertising. You can't escape it, you know, and it's exhausting, and we're exhausted. We really are, and we're under the pump. We're under a great deal of stress. Not just the typical version of what a regular person thinks stress is, thanks to all the people putting their hands up, but also, you know, energy stress. Your nervous system is under stress, your whole body's under stress, That's why you're getting all these aches and pains and illnesses, and why you mentally feel like you're in a Looney Tune asylum half the time, or you're emotionally erratic or whatever. It's all part of it. So the subconscious mind is picking up all these symbols from everywhere, and at the same time the universe is working overtime because it's sending in so much energy that it's yes, you'll notice Frida mentioned the third eye tingling, great, and for some people the crown chakra. And because of all this high energy coming in, at the same time we have all these lower frequencies and all these things happening. So in our dream time, it's a time for our guides and angels and our subconscious mind to do all the work, and to process things at an accelerated pace to help us along, to work things through. Some things can be worked out in our dream state, and sometimes things will be revealed in our dreams. So think about, who are you dreaming of, what are you dreaming of, and what those symbols are and what they mean, and how that can apply to your life, because it is time to face the truth, face your fears, and then so you're ready when we have that breakthrough to go to the next level. Okay. All right. So now tap into whatever deeper truths are coming out for you, and tap into the higher energy that's there for you. We can ask the angels to come right now. Thank you. I mean, they're here already. They're funny. I love it when they say it. They're like, we're here already. Let's ask the angels, let's ask God, the divine, whatever you feel safe, comfortable, and supported by. Thank you, Jesus Christ, for showering us with light, illumination, for giving us the gift of insight, for helping us cope and deal with whatever comes up, whatever's rising, for us to realize and release in the easiest, safest way. Thank you for allowing us to receive our own insight and guidance, and pay attention to signs and synchronicities, and for comforting us in times of change. Thank you for guiding us and showing our way. Amen. Okay. So I mentioned one more thing that you can do during this time is to reflect on who and what is coming up for you, and then work through that. Okay, so that's really important. Now, because we are about to approach the lunar eclipse on the 27th, then this one can bring up repressed feelings really strongly, and it's like a culmination point. So think of it as water coming up on a well to the point it's on the brink. So I've told that to clients sometimes. I receive it as a symbol in readings. And that water's about to spill over, right? So you're at that brink point. So it's coming to a culmination. So, and then you can walk through that new doorway with the new energies coming in, but you must do the work yourself, okay? It doesn't need to be hard. Just stay incommunicado with spirit. And even if you're not sure, you don't believe, or you're doubting or whatever, just keep those lines of communication open. So what I do is when I'm vacuum cleaning, or just anytime during the day, I have to remind myself to then talk to my angels and guides and just let out all my stuff, yeah? And you feel better because you've released it, but you've also given it to spirit, and you're giving them an opportunity to help you, because they can only help you if you ask as well. So you've got to remember that universal law as well. Okay, so what else? So it's a time of activation, growth, change, and evolution for us individually, and also as a collective, which is an important. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers what I want to say today. I just want to wish everyone well. I know that lots of you will be watching this later, so a big shout out to all of you. Thank you to all my supporters. Thank you to everyone who's joined in today. Okay, do you have any last requests before we finish? So I'll offer a prayer to sign off. So thank you, God and the angels, for watching over all of us. Thank you for reminding us of our lights. Thank you for activating our hearts and opening ourselves up to the divine and tuning into the divine on a soul level. Help us feel relief and to let go of anything draining us now. So let's work on that. So let's release anything that needs to go. Let's lift you up, lift your spirits, lift your vibrations up to a higher level. Let's bring in the light. and allow yourself to receive the healing energies from the divine. So let's just spend a moment in silence. Breathe in and out as you release. Feel that light ampling up. Letting it go. Opening, expanding yourself up, and feel that lightness and that nurturing, healing energy in the quietness. So relief can be here for us now and at any time that you ask.